We do know that Camilla had told friends at this point that she was surprised at the unexpected side to William that she had found. "The boy's got a temper," she apparently said. One of them was born to be king. The other came to the royal family late in life, but has nevertheless become one of the key figures in the firm. Prince William and Queen Camilla might be close now, but it wasn't a straightforward path to get there, with rows and heartache and complaints of leaking stories along the way. In this programme, I'm going to look at that journey through some of the key moments that got us there, and explain why theirs is one of the most important relationships for the British royal family and its future. Before we get into it, a reminder to please subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel for more fascinating royal content like this. Although Charles has known Camilla since 1970, William did not know her growing up. In fact, they first met in 1998, less than a year after Diana died. Camilla had firmly become part of Charles's life again, and he felt that it was time she met his sons. It was going to happen sooner or later, as William and Harry were planning a surprise party for their father's 50th in November. According to Camilla's biographer, Penny Junor, it started out as a party for the prince's godchildren and their parents, and as Tom was Charles's godson, William realised he'd need to invite Camilla. It was time to meet her, he decided. Although he'd heard a lot of terrible things about her from his mother, who spared him little, he was beginning to realise that not everything he'd heard was entirely true. The meeting came sooner than planned, when William came home unexpectedly for the weekend from Eton. Camilla offered to leave, but Charles thought it right that they get it over with. He took her to the flat William had at Clarence House and left them to talk for half an hour. According to Penny Junor, at the end of the conversation, Camilla came out saying, "I need a drink." Despite the obviously difficult circumstances, it's thought that William had been friendly and Camilla had been sensitive about his feelings. They went on to meet again for lunch a few days later and enjoyed tea together too. Reports suggest that their meeting definitely didn't heal all the wounds, but made William realise that perhaps Camilla was far from the wicked stepmother figure as she had sometimes been portrayed. There was a twist, however. When newspapers revealed that the meeting had taken place, William was furious. Reports at the time suggested that he didn't trust his father's office. An investigation was launched and discovered that it was a private secretary of Camilla's who had accidentally leaked the story in an off-the-record conversation. The secretary in question resigned, but was later rehired. The first pictures of them together are these ones from 2002 at a Buckingham Palace concert to mark Queen Elizabeth's Golden Jubilee. Only they're not actually together. We can't know exactly what was being said, but it looks like Camilla is first looking over at Harry and Charles with William, and then she's trying to get their attention, actually waving to them. It's not clear if that's what's really going on, but it's an extraordinary set of pictures. Royal protocol and public opinion at the time would have made having Charles next to Camilla at this event impossible, however much Charles in particular might have wanted it. Charles also had to be sensitive to his son's wishes. We know more about this from Prince Harry's memoirs Spare. He later revealed more about his and William's view of Camilla. "Willie and I promised Pa that we'd welcome Camilla into the family," he wrote. "The only thing we asked in return was that he not marry her. You don't need to remarry, we pleaded. A wedding would cause controversy. It would incite the press. It would make the whole country, the whole world talk about Mummy, compare Mummy and Camilla, and nobody wanted that. Least of all Camilla. We support you, we said. We endorse Camilla. Just please don't marry her. Just be together, Pa." It was a very sensitive, difficult time for Camilla because even though, she was the long-term girlfriend, well established with Charles, she often wasn't allowed to sit with him, particularly at big state occasions. And the final straw, by all accounts, came at a wedding at Chester Cathedral. It was one of the late Duke of Westminster's daughters, and Queen Elizabeth was there, and Prince Philip, and lots of senior members of the royal family. And protocol dictated that Camilla had to be seated far back, far away from Charles. And according to some reports at the time, Camilla put her foot down at this point and said, "This is ridiculous, I can't go on like this." Neither she nor Charles ended up attending that wedding, and they announced their engagement soon after. 3 years later, from those photographs at the concert, The boys are now adults themselves when Charles finally married Camilla in a civil ceremony at Windsor. There had been huge debate over whether Charles, who was the future Supreme Governor of the Church of England, should be allowed to remarry. But there was a strong argument that insisting he stay unmarried with Camilla as a mere companion caused huge problems too. We now know how important Camilla is to Charles, and he did what many of us would want to do. That is, put a ring on it. The formal portrait is a lovely photograph. Everyone knows they've got to look their best and smile for the camera. There would have been some relief, I think, from Camilla that the service was over with. The pictures outside the event are probably more instructive. Here, William and Harry look almost too happy. Giddy even. It's as though they're getting through the challenge of the day by joking with each other. This would have been a very hard day for William and his brother, particularly to have to do it while the world looked on. But despite the bad feeling that undoubtedly lingered, and we know it did from Harry's memoirs, one of the key moments here was this grainy photo of William greeting the bride, his new stepmother, with a kiss. It was the Mail's front page the next day. Wills's kiss for Camilla. As we discussed in my programme about Catherine and Meghan, you can tell lots by how royals greet each other. Catherine kissed Meghan on the cheek at Westminster Abbey to try to reset relations. And I think this is a sign from a younger William that despite everything, he has accepted Camilla into the family. Royal life thrusts the key figures together in very formal and very public circumstances, so it was unsurprising that a few months after the wedding, we saw William and Camilla together again. This picture was taken at the Cenotaph for the annual Remembrance Service, a key event for the royal family. We can't expect a happy mood here, but the body language is uncomfortable. Camilla, who was from a military family, would have understood this event instinctively, but she was relatively new to big public engagements, and although charming and outgoing, wouldn't have had the public confidence that a similarly aged royal might have done. Also, William was more of a reluctant royal in those days, and much more self-conscious. He was a long way from the self-confident heir to the throne we know now. As Penny Junor writes in one of her books on Camilla, to the nation, it may have looked as though all was quickly forgiven and forgotten, but it took many years for William to warm to Camilla. Meanwhile, the public had to warm to Camilla. Part of this process was to have her seen out with the boys. Junor quotes one of those involved in rehabilitating Camilla's image. Part of the thinking was that in order for the public to approve of Camilla, she had to be seen with the boys or it wouldn't work. I think the relationship between them all is warm now, but if I'm honest, it wasn't then. I think they found it hard. Things were definitely warming between William and the then Duchess of Cornwall. She is seen here at the heart of royal action at a firework display for the Queen's 80th birthday. Here William and Camilla, with close family nearby, seem to be happily chatting away. This was held at London's beautiful Kew Gardens, and frankly, who wouldn't be happy to be right at the heart of this historic occasion in these beautiful surroundings? Harry complains in his memoirs Spare that Camilla was on the charm offensive with William because he was the heir, while she was bored with Harry. Maybe he just wasn't making the same effort. Although they were now married, Camilla was still viewed with suspicion by some of the royals, the media and the public. These times would have had some very hard moments for Camilla. As she wrote in Vogue to mark her own 75th birthday, "It's not easy. I was scrutinised for such a long time that you just have to find a way to live with it. Nobody likes to be looked at all the time and, criticised. But I think in the end, I sort of rise above it and get on with it. You've got to get on with life." Things seem less than warm here at a Thanksgiving service for the Queen in September 2006. A very serious looking William here. The interaction feels formal and possibly forced. While we don't know the exact context of this picture, we do know that Camilla had told friends at this point that she was surprised at the unexpected side to William that she had found. "The boy's got a temper," she apparently said. In Robert Lacey's book, Battle of the Brothers, he writes, "Camilla had been horrified by the ranting and raving that William could unleash on occasions against her husband, letting rip with no apparent inhibition in her presence. The rows had been earth-shattering, by her account, with William doing the shouting and Charles submitting meekly. In William's kingdom, everything had to be perfect," the author continued. "And if his father has failed in some way to live up to his elder son's elevated view of what being royal entails, the young man would release his fury." Because of their increasingly senior positions in the family, William and Camilla were often together at official events when William was back from military duties, These pictures of the pair sharing a carriage were taken at Trooping the Colour in 2007, 2009 and 2010. The atmosphere seems convivial. It's not warm, but it's not cold either. Both know the importance of getting on. It reminded me of an argument made by Penny Junor in The Duchess, The Untold Story. This was made before Megxit, of course. She writes that after Diana's death, William and Harry could have badly lost their way. There was no certainty that they'd turn into such well-grounded, responsible, likeable young men, or that they'd embrace their unenviable destiny. Camilla could have driven a wedge between father and sons. Instead, she was the glue that has kept them together. While keeping Harry in the fold was probably well beyond her or anyone's abilities, I think that her stabilising, but no-nonsense presence has probably only helped bring Charles and William back closer together over the years. This shot might not suggest much about the pair, but it would have been a reminder to William and the rest of the royals of Camilla's place. This is the balcony shot for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012, where the King stripped everything back, so joining Her Majesty was Charles, Camilla, William, Catherine and Harry. There is not much interaction here, they're quite spread out. Charles is sticking tightly to Camilla, who probably feels a bit exposed here. The backstory is fascinating. These five and their descendants were the future of the royal family as far as Charles was concerned. Camilla and Catherine were key to that. Camilla had been undertaking more engagements than the younger royals, who had been on military duties and taking time almost to find themselves before the real royal work began. Prince Andrew was said to be angry and Prince Edward disappointed at missing out. This was Charles making a key point that he wanted Camilla to be queen, and this is how he saw the future of the royal family. This is one of my favourite pictures from today's programme. The occasion is the opening ceremony of the first Invictus Games in London in 2014. William was sitting with Camilla and Charles for the occasion, and for whatever reason they're just in fits of laughter. The royals are used to everything working like clockwork. The engagements they go to are sometimes planned years in advance, and while this means they can do a lot, it can be a bit boring. So when something does go wrong, it can really tickle them. You don't really laugh like this and look at someone like this if you're not close. It's also a reminder that while Harry was a key driver for the Invictus Games, William in particular and the rest of the royals were also involved in its formation and really did get behind the event. Despite these smiles here, it has been suggested that there were further conflicts down the road. Prince Harry writes of one episode in 2019 where he says his brother was seething. This was because he claims Pa and Camilla's people had planted a story or stories about him and Kate and the kids, and he wasn't going to take it anymore. Give Pa and Camilla an inch, he said, they take a mile. This was a significant moment. William greeting Camilla warmly at the Commonwealth Day service. What gave the occasion a particular importance was that it came after the late Queen Elizabeth gave her blessing that Camilla should be known as Queen when Charles took the throne. This was a hugely important moment for the royals after the years-long controversy over Charles's relationship with Camilla and the supposed unhappiness on William and Harry's side. However, William was said to be supportive of the decision, and this kiss, again a public embrace, is often significant with the royals, helped to allay any fears that William wasn't happy with the decision. A well-placed source told my colleague Rebecca English at the time there were huge family rows in the early stages of Charles and Camilla's marriage, as everyone found their feet. William didn't have the best relationship with his father back then, but he sees that Camilla had made his father happy, and it is something he has come to terms with. His relationship with the Prince of Wales is better than it ever has been. He is not particularly close to his stepmother, but they get on perfectly well and are quite the blended family now. He also respects his grandmother and her judgment more than anything in the world. If it is right for her, then it will be right for him. This next picture, I think, shows one of the key people responsible for William's rapprochement with Camilla and his father. It is, of course, William's wife, Catherine. This was taken at the welcoming ceremony for the South African president, who was arriving on a state visit. You can see here the warmth and friendliness between Catherine and Camilla, two future queens. Catherine would have been grateful to Camilla too, after she gave her some important advice early on in her relationship with William. According to Robert Lacey in his book Battle of the Brothers, Camilla had confided to Kate the secret of hanging on to a busy prince. Fit your timetable, well basically your whole life, around his. Catherine obviously took that advice and helped make William the happy prince he is today. 10 years on from the last picture of William and Camilla giggling, I'm pleased to report that they're still laughing. This is maybe the most touching of all the images we're looking at today, and it shows the journey that they have both been on. This is from March 2024, and while both William and Camilla would have expected to be at Commonwealth Day, neither would have expected to have to do it without their spouses. Yet with both the King and Catherine undergoing treatment for cancer, Camilla and William had to shoulder the responsibility for this one themselves. Despite the stress and uncertainty both were facing, they were both able to share a huge laugh. It almost looks like a release as much as anything. They would both have been very grateful to have the other there. It might have taken William longer to appreciate Camilla, but it's rare to laugh like this with someone you don't care about. They had both suffered the outrageous barbs launched at them by Harry and Meghan in their books and interviews. That could have divided them, but it only made them stronger. William will respect the fact that well into her 70s, Camilla is having to work harder than ever. I hope you enjoyed that look back at an extraordinary quarter of a century in the lives of two fascinating figures. A reminder to please subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel for more great royal content like this and Palace Confidential. I'll see you next time on Reading the Royals.